How's it going, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and this is the Weekly Fix, the show where we round up all the gaming and entertainment headlines you may have missed this week. The fan remake of The Simpsons Hit and Run is finished, but will not be released to the public. Plus, we've got the lineup of new games for PlayStation Plus in August. In the entertainment world, we've got some of the biggest headlines to come out of San Diego Comic-Con, and Christopher Nolan has revealed the true ending of his film Inception. Hope you're having a relaxing day, and let's jump right into it.
The ambitious Simpsons Hit and Run fan remake is now complete, but its creator says it will never be released. Creator Rubes Ward remade Radical Entertainment's much-loved 2003 action-adventure from scratch, figuring out how the original Grand Theft Auto 3 inspired game was coded and remaking every little detail and feature in Unreal Engine 5. In a new video published to YouTube, Rubes declared the project complete. This latest version began life a year ago after Rubes pulled an earlier version offline to avoid potential legal issues with Disney. That version drew praise from Hit and Run lead designer Joe McGinn, who said at the time, "Amazing what you accomplished, really gives a taste of what a full modern remaster could be, impressive work." Eye-catching changes include remaking the Simpsons family car to fit better with the game's art style, an obvious graphical bump, in-game cutscenes, and an explorable open world. It's a project fans would love to see released, but Rubes has said that will never happen. In a disclaimer included in a video from 2022, Rubes said, "This is a fan remake for entertainment purposes. This game will never be available to download. Please do not pester my poor Discord mods for a download link." Calls for an official Simpsons Hit and Run remake have been heard from time to time in the 20 years since the original's release, but it seems an unlikely project. In 2021, we spoke to Simpsons writer Matt Selman, who explained why we might not see a remake anytime soon. Selman said that it would be, quote, "a complicated corporate octopus to try to make that happen." Developer Radical Entertainment, now owned by Activision, is busy offering other Activision studio support. Perhaps, if Microsoft ends up buying Activision Blizzard, Xbox boss Phil Spencer will sort out the no doubt nightmarish licensing issues to get things moving. What's next for Rubes? On Twitter, he teased Mindscape's 1997 LEGO-themed open-world action-adventure game LEGO Island as his next target. Moving on, today we learned Sea of Stars launches day and date as a PlayStation Plus game catalog title on August 29th. The upcoming turn-based role-playing game inspired by the classics was already announced as coming to Xbox as a day-and-date Game Pass title, as well as PC and Nintendo Switch. Sea of Stars tells the story of two children of the solstice who combine the powers of the sun and moon to perform eclipse magic, the only force capable of fending off the monstrous creations of the evil alchemist known as the Fleshmancer. Good name. Its release into the PlayStation Plus game catalog means Sea of Stars will be available for all extra and premium members on launch day. Level designer Philip Dion said in a post on the PlayStation blog, "It's incredible for us to imagine how many more players worldwide will experience Sea of Stars and join the conversation around our project." To coincide with the announcement, a Sea of Stars demo is now available on both PlayStation 4 and 5. It includes areas that will be part of the final game, but Dion said the developers made sure to pick a slice that did not reveal any major spoilers from the main story. So it's hitting both PlayStation Plus and Game Pass day one, which might be a first. Either way, it's great news for both gamers and the developers. And finally today, Ubisoft has reportedly canceled its plans for a sequel to Immortals Fenyx Rising. This decision was made earlier this month by Ubisoft's leadership due to difficulties establishing it as a franchise. According to VGC, the sequel was reportedly in development at Ubisoft Quebec, the same studio in charge of the first game. While Immortals received positive reviews, we gave it a 7 out of 10, it reportedly didn't sell that well. Many of the units sold apparently came from heavy discounting. Additionally, its European sales were reportedly 70% lower than Assassin's Creed Valhalla's during a similar period. Ubisoft has recently pivoted to focus on its most prominent franchises, such as Assassin's Creed, so it might be unsurprising that a planned Immortals Fenyx Rising sequel was cancelled. Assassin's Creed Mirage is launching later this year, and Ubisoft is reportedly working on a remake of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Back in January, Ubisoft also revealed that it had cancelled 3 other unannounced games, and VGC reports that this sequel isn't one of them. Another game, Skull and Bones, has suffered delay after delay since its initial reveal in 2017. This is all to say, Ubisoft has had a really tough time getting games out the door lately. Here's hoping the same doesn't happen to Star Wars Outlaws due next year. Final Fantasy XVI was released just last month, and fans of the long-running RPG-turned-action RPG series have been concerned that it just isn't selling well. Well, don't worry, it's apparently doing just fine. Square Enix has told IGN that Final Fantasy XVI sales are extremely strong, and that it's all down to how many people have a PS5. Concerns began earlier this week when Bloomberg revealed that Final Fantasy XVI sales had dropped dramatically in the second week after the game's launch. The PS5 exclusive sold 3 million copies in its launch week, a figure that falls short of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which sold 3.5 million copies in its first 3 days. Bloomberg added that sales of Final Fantasy XVI had lagged since launch and that Square Enix was grappling with weak momentum on its flagship franchise. However, Square Enix says that it's only because there are a smaller number of players with PS5s compared to how many people had PS4s when Final Fantasy VII Remake came out. They told IGN that, quote, the attach rate of Final Fantasy XVI is considerably high given the PS5 install base. They added, Square Enix considers the initial sales results of Final Fantasy XVI to be extremely strong, and we will continue to carry out a wide range of initiatives to encourage even more people to play the game. And let's not forget, Sony has presumably compensated Square Enix somehow for PS5 exclusivity, so Square might be able to afford to be patient with Final Fantasy XVI's sales. Moving on, the FTC has hit the brakes on its Xbox Activision Blizzard merger trial, and that could mean the $69 billion merger will finally get the go-ahead. In a filing submitted on July 18th, Xbox submitted a motion to withdraw the proceeding, to which the FTC responded with no objection. It doesn't sound like much, but it's a pretty huge sign that the FTC trial has ground to a halt, and it could spell the end of its opposition to the historic merger. This follows the recent verdict denying the FTC's request to pause the deal, which was already a significant blow to their campaign. So what happens next? Well, it's entirely possible that the FTC will reach a settlement with Microsoft or could file the retrial. However, experts agree that it's increasingly unlikely that the FTC will win the case. Members of Congress have even publicly asked the FTC to back down from its challenge of the merger. The FTC originally sued Microsoft in an attempt to block its buyout of Activision Blizzard as an antitrust measure. Following a week-long trial, the FTC was soundly defeated, with the courts denying their proposal to delay the deal. Whatever happens next, it looks as though Microsoft's buyout of Activision Blizzard is becoming more and more likely by the day. And finally, Diablo 4 players have been left feeling shortchanged with the minuscule drop rate of the game's uber uniques. However, Blizzard isn't budging. Game director Joseph Pipora told IGN, the moment that these things actually drop, we want that to be a fall out of your chair moment. We want that to be a really critically important thing. The collection of extremely rare items includes the game-breaking two-handed sword, the Grandfather, which increases critical strike damage by up to 100%, as well as the Doombringer, a one-handed sword with devastating area of effect. Yes, they are ridiculously overpowered. But Blizzard maintains that only a lucky few should ever get their hands on them. There were initially just 6 uber uniques in Diablo 4's loot pool, but the addition of the Ahavarian Spear of Lycander and its Season 1 pre-patch has brought the total up to 7. Whether or not you ever encounter one of them will depend on how lucky you are, but don't worry, they were never meant to be essential to your character builds. Blizzard told us, we don't want these items to fall into that space. We want them to be these really extraordinary, massive bonuses on top of basically anyone's build that can occur on occasion. When you get them, the character is just going to feel overpowered. They're going to feel very, very strong. That is how they're balanced. Better start grinding those nightmare dungeons.
Sony has announced the games that'll be available at no extra charge to PlayStation Plus subscribers starting in August, available until September 4th. The headlining act is Dreams, the massively ambitious multimedia creation suite from Little Big Planet creators Media Molecule. Originally released for PlayStation 4 in 2020, Dreams attracted an extremely active user base, though sadly, its inclusion in PlayStation Plus seems like a little too late. Media Molecule recently announced that support for Dreams is ending next month and that the studio is shifting focus to a new project. On the bright side, the studio has launched one final game within a game titled Tren, a nostalgic adventure where you drive a toy train. IGN scored Dreams a 9 out of 10 when it released, and it's definitely worth checking out, but I can't help but wonder if maybe it would have benefited from being on PS Plus way sooner. In addition to Dreams, PS Plus is also getting Death's Door, the phenomenal isometric Zelda-like released in 2021. If you're a fan of Link's Awakening or Tunic, this is definitely worth checking out. Finally, there's also PGA Tour 2K23, which is a game about golf. Golf, if you're unfamiliar, is a sport where you hit a small ball into a slightly larger hole that's inconveniently far away. PS Plus subscribers have until July 31st, one day after my birthday, to grab the current free games, so get on that if you haven't yet. Yesterday, reports were flying around that the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, or ESRB, was working on new facial recognition technology that could verify the ages of children and prevent them from accessing age-restricted games. In a statement to IGN, the ESRB denied these claims and offered some clarification. In an email to IGN, an ESRB spokesperson stated, quote, "First and foremost, this application is not to authorize the use of this technology with children. Full stop. nor does this software take and store selfies of users or attempt to confirm the identity of users. Furthermore, this application makes no mention of using age estimation to prevent children from purchasing and/or downloading restrictively rated video games, nor do we intend to recommend its use in that way. The application referred to is the one the ESRB submitted to the Federal Trade Commission for a mechanism formerly known as Privacy Protective Facial Age Estimation, which was developed in collaboration with a digital identity firm called Yoti. According to the ESRB, kids attempting to sign up for a new game or service will be asked to provide their guardian's email. The parent may then be asked to consent to a scan of their face using a front-facing camera, which is then used to accurately estimate the parent's age. So, it's still weird and creepy technology, but at least it's weird, creepy technology designed for adults, not kids. I don't know, I don't think that makes it any better. The ESRB spokesperson reiterated, to be perfectly clear, any images and data used for this process are never stored, used for AI training, used for marketing, or shared with anyone. Basically, all this does is determine whether or not the face being scanned is older than age 25. So basically, if you look like you're 18 forever and you're one of those people that can't age, you're kind of shit out of luck. You can read the full statement over on IGN, but it's a little ironic that an organization dedicated to protecting kids is taking such measures to do so that it has people up in arms about the safety of said children. Resident Evil 4 already got one incredible modern remake this year, but one fan has another remake in the works that takes a very different approach. The modder, who goes by Dumero, posted a 30-minute chunk of gameplay on their YouTube channel, and as you can clearly see, it faithfully recreates Leon Kennedy's arrival in the village, subsequent run-ins with crazed townsfolk, and the arrival of fan-favorite chainsaw-wielding Dr. Salvador. You want to hear the weird part? The whole thing is technically a Doom mod. While it's clearly using Resident Evil 4 assets, it's running on GZ Doom, a modernized version of what id Software used to make the granddaddy of first-person shooters. Sadly, no word on when we'll get to play the RE4 demake for ourselves, but it's been in the works since 2016, so hopefully a demo's on the horizon. I'm genuinely curious how the Del Lago fight works in 2D. We have to toss it to a quick break, but we've got more gaming news when we come back. Welcome back to the Weekly Fix. Let's jump in with some more gaming news.
Diablo 4 isn't exactly an easy grind. Getting to that coveted level 100 takes more than a few nightmare dungeons. But now the whole thing just got a little tougher with the game's latest update. Patch 1.1.0a was released a couple days ago to prepare players for the game's first season, which is out today. But among the changes, it looks as though Activision Blizzard has locked lower-level players out of its captain dungeons. Now, why is that so devastating? Well, completing capstone dungeons was a popular way of power-leveling low-level characters. The idea was simple: grab a high-level pal and tag along while they hack and slash their way through the dungeon, netting you a ton of free XP. Unfortunately, Blizzard has put a stop to it, requiring players to be level 40 for the World Tier 3 dungeon and level 60 for its World Tier 4 dungeon. And that's not the only nerf affecting progression. The amount of XP you get for killing high-level monsters has been reduced. Helltides are now a lot harder too. Throw in additional nerfs across the board to vulnerability damage, critical strike damage, and cooldown reductions, and it all adds up to a much slower game. And Diablo 4 players aren't having it. Some players are suggesting that the nefariously slow leveling process is now far worse, calling it a proper slog. Just don't ask sorcerers how they feel. The class is already in a pretty tough spot as one of the worst for in-game activities. Yeah. Moving on, Call of Duty is seeing a bit of a resurgence recently, and I don't mean last year's Modern Warfare 2. Classics such as Black Ops, Black Ops 2, and the original Modern Warfare 3 have rocketed to the top of Xbox's paid games. And the original Modern Warfare 2 from 2009 is right there at the top. They're even outselling some of Xbox's biggest hits, including Red Dead Redemption 2, Hogwarts Legacy, and Elden Ring. Now, what's led to this sudden resurgence of the classic Call of Duty games? A whole raft of recent improvements to their online multiplayer, as well as numerous other fixes, is thought to be one reason why players are diving back into them. But it's probably because they just got a lot cheaper too. An eye-catching Xbox sale sees some of the titles going for a steal, and that's fueled a massive surge in players over the weekend. Reports suggest that thousands of players flocked to these older Call of Duty games, filling lobbies following reported server fixes. Now sadly, players are reporting that the age-old trouble with hackers, boosters, and cheaters remains, but if you've been thinking about revisiting your favorite Call of Duty games, now would be a great time. Activision has long said it won't put Call of Duty on Xbox Game Pass, but Microsoft's sudden interest in these old games might change their mind or force Kotick's hand. Either way, it's a good time to rally up your squad and lock and load. Finally, Bandai Namco is shutting down Gundam Evolution just a year after the game launched. Gun damn it! The free-to-play shooter that dives headfirst into the Gundam universe will shut down completely by November 29th, later this year. The game only launched last September on PC, with a console launch a couple months later. Producer Kazuya Maruyama said the announcement is made with great sadness and thanked the players for supporting Gundam Evolution through its admittedly short lifetime. He added, quote, "At the same time, we would like to sincerely apologize to our fans and players." News of the game's shutdown comes just shortly after the end of Season 5, and it looks as though its upcoming Season 6 will still go ahead, becoming the game's final season when it launches on October 25th. Maruyama said, "We will do our best to ensure that our players can enjoy Gundam Evolution to the fullest till the very end." Sales of EVO coins, the game's in-game currency, will come to an end on July 26th, but any coins players have left can still be used until the servers finally close in November. Bandai Namco has confirmed that it won't be refunding any purchases, so make use of them while you still can and enjoy your kick-ass Gundam for a couple months at least.
Have you been worried your controllers might get gross and smelly after long hours of gaming sessions? Well, don't worry, because now Xbox is releasing a pizza-scented controller. In honor of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem's movie release in August, Xbox announced a giveaway of turtle-themed limited controllers. These controllers look really cool. I mean, these might be my favorite controllers I've seen from Xbox yet. They're covered in green ooze with graffiti names on each controller of the specific turtle they're made after. So there are specific controllers themed after Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo. So how exactly do these controllers smell like pizza? Okay, thankfully it is not a scratch and sniff deal. Each controller actually comes with built-in scent diffusers shaped like a slice of pizza. So as you play some TMNT games like Shredder's Revenge, you can really immerse yourself with the diffusers, or just make yourself really hungry. Unfortunately, you can't just outright purchase these, and you have to enter Xbox's giveaway to get a chance to win one. You can enter to win one of these wireless controllers by following Xbox Game Pass on Twitter and retweeting the official Xbox Game Pass sweepstakes tweet. I don't know if we're still calling them tweets or not, because we just rebranded, but whatever. This giveaway will run from July 25th, today, to August 13th. If you're in New York City, you can actually go and check out the actual controllers in person in the Xbox Gaming Lounge at the Microsoft Experience Center on 5th Avenue on August 2nd. So if you're in New York and you get to go to this event, please send me pictures of the controller. We all poke fun at people who say, just pause the game when it's multiplayer, but now in the single-player game Starfield, you can't just pause the game during a specific gameplay moment that's going to change your tactics just a little bit. A Reddit post from OKPain 2022 showed a snippet of Starfield gameplay most people just glossed over that showed a player stealthily pickpocketing a guard. During this clip, the screen didn't pause the game for the pickpocket menu, and the player was stealing in real time. In previous Bethesda games like Skyrim or Fallout 4, time would actually pause to let you figure out what items on your grocery list you could cross off by stealing from NPCs. So it seems like in Starfield, you'll have to be way more conscious of what you're stealing and when you do it. Of course, this begs the question, will lockpicking also be in real time? It would totally make sense for Bethesda to make all of the ability check actions operate the same and keep the real-time aspect, but we haven't seen anything on it yet. I definitely think putting lockpicking in real time would be really fun, especially floating around in space. It keeps people from cheesing encounters by pausing, and you'd have to be way more strategic. But that's just me speculating about possibilities in Starfield. And actually, speaking of other fans trying to figure out all they can on Starfield, Reddit user ASD8DHD, great name by the way, spent 200 hours of research trying to decrypt the complete skill system used in Starfield. Of course, this isn't all confirmed, so we can't say it's completely accurate, but they have a public Google Doc you can read with over 40 pages of in-depth information on abilities. They've broken down the 5 skill trees shown and detailed breakdowns of every skill in that specific tree, and the 4 ranks following their challenge requirements. They also cross-referenced with all of the publicly released footage, interviews, blog posts, and images available to get as best a guess as possible. There are incredible details addressing leveling, social skills like intimidation and persuasion, combat skills, and so much more. It's an interesting read, and the sources the Reddit user points to for the research seems to really solidify a majority of the details surrounding the different skills. So go give it a read. Tencent announced that it's buying Techland, the studio behind the original Dead Island and Dying Light series. Techland CEO Paweł Marchewka announced in a blog post that Tencent is in the process of becoming the studio's major shareholder. He also said teaming up with Tencent will allow us to move full speed ahead with the execution of the vision for our games. We have already chosen an ally who has already partnered with some of the world's finest video game companies and helped them reach new heights while respecting their ways of doing things. Marchevka did assure fans that even though Tencent will own the studio, Techland will have full ownership of its IPs and maintain creative freedom and operate independently. Techland is just one of the few studios that Tencent has bought in the last year to now. In 2022, Tencent bought Sumo Group, the developer behind Sackboy, A Big Adventure, and Wake Up Interactive. And just in December last year, Tencent had also announced they bought Back 4 Blood and Left 4 Dead developer Turtle Rock Studios. Tencent is quickly growing its reach in gaming, and it doesn't seem to be stopping in its acquisition spending spree. Who do you think they'll buy out next? Call of Duty is known for its fairly gritty war simulating gameplay, but thanks to cosmetic packs available in Warzone and Modern Warfare 2, we now have laser cats running around in game, and players are kind of unsure about this development. You're probably wondering, Stella, what the do you mean laser cats? Okay, so let me explain. There were two recent cosmetic packs that are making ridiculous combinations together: the Whisker Tango bundle and the Boys Homelander Operator bundle. These two cosmetic packs are about $20 each. So players started discovering the beautiful mix of using the Operator skin from the Whisker Tango bundle, which is just a giant cat named Sergeant Pss Pss Pss, and the Homelander skin's finisher to make Laser Cat. Redditor Exile on Wood CT has a clip of Laser Cat in action, and it's surprisingly horrifying. I love cats, but seeing a cat just Homelander beam the crap out of a military man is a little bit too much. And I'm a little bit afraid that's what's going to happen if I'm late for Swanson's lunch. Of course, not everyone will have this bundle because it would cost you $40 to do this ridiculous combination, but it does have players talking about whether or not the cosmetics are going a little too far from realism in Call of Duty. Here's some quotes from players that we've seen so far. "What the f is happening to this game?" wrote Redditor Destroyer 6202. Another one says, "What the f has this game turned into?" And that comes from Chunny 1999-8. "Remember when they advertised this game as the most realistic COD of all time? Yeah," wrote 10Z Legacy. Okay, so here's the thing about Call of Duty. You can run with a heavy-ass sniper rifle endlessly and also tank grenades to the face. I think we left realism at the door a long time ago, but I do get what they're saying. The most recent additions to cosmetics are a little bit too much. Fortnite actually does the cosmetic collaborations really well because it works for their art and game style. Call of Duty also held its specific aesthetic of a more realistic shooter game for way longer than any other title, and seeing it pull Homelander and Starlight into the game is incredibly weird. And don't get me wrong, it was really weird to see Superman and the Hulk in Fortnite running around with scars, but something about seeing superheroes in Call of Duty was just really wrong to me. First of all, Homelander is just way too strong to need any additional weaponry, and I really doubt he would ever be bothered to use an AK to kill someone. But more importantly, Starlight's entire personality goes against her even being in a war, holding a gun, or involving herself in unnecessary violence. If you've seen The Boys Season 2, that is all her character arc is about. I genuinely hate seeing them in the game because it does not make sense to me to see these two specifically as operators. Maybe Huey and Butcher, yeah, and that's more realistic to me since they literally do whatever they can to sabotage the soups, and they're not afraid to get dirty. But superheroes in my Call of Duty? I don't know, that's weird. Again, I think Fortnite's weird cosmetic collaborations work because the game already has so many ridiculous power-ups in their mechanics, and they already have a very cartoonish art style. Call of Duty now having laser cats, after being known for its incredible and hard-hitting game levels like No Russian, it's just a little bit weird.
Several House Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives have composed a letter to the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, urging the regulator to drop its ongoing legal feud with Microsoft regarding the proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard. The letter, which was addressed to FTC Chair Lina Khan and Commissioners Slaughter and Bedoya, calls on these three to drop its antitrust case against Microsoft, requesting the agency, quote, return to its long history of a sensible, consumer-oriented antitrust enforcement. The letter reads, instead of protecting competition as Congress intended, the FTC has spent taxpayer resources seeking to block a deal that promises to expand consumer choice and insulate a dominant foreign company from competition. Last week, the FTC was denied a preliminary injunction that it tried to get to prevent Microsoft from closing its deal to acquire Activision Blizzard. The agency then tried to appeal the decision. However, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit rejected it. Despite the losses in federal court, the FTC is still attempting to stop Microsoft from closing the deal, as the regulator has scheduled an evidentiary hearing before an administrative law judge on August 2nd. I'm not sure why the FTC is trying so hard to stop this deal, but we'll see how the August 2nd hearing goes. Moving on, with Diablo 4 Season 1 nearly upon us, Blizzard has released a hefty, nearly 9 GB patch featuring balance changes to classes, unique items, and more. Patch 1.1.0a, which is intended to prepare for the upcoming season of the Malignant, introduces a number of gameplay changes, such as making Altars of Lilith unlocks account-wide. It also heavily rebalances some of the classes, most notably the Sorceress, which is getting a heavy nerf to the Devouring Blaze skill that is critical to many of their builds. This is on top of changes to monster movement, XP progression, accessibility, and more. But it's the new unique items that will really catch the eye of players. Unique items have become a community focal point over the past few weeks, as fans have argued over drop rates and other areas of interest. The world first Andariel's Visage first dropped back in late June. The patch arrives just ahead of the anticipated release of Diablo Season 1, which is set to commence on July 20th. In addition to the Battle Pass, Season of the Malignant will feature new mechanics, a new boss, and lots more. We'll have much more on it at launch. Sega has released 2 mini versions of its Genesis/Mega Drive console, leaving some fans wondering which classic piece of hardware the company will make mini next. The Saturn, which followed the Genesis in 1994, seems like the logical choice, but it sounds like turning the Saturn into a mini console is difficult for Sega to achieve. Sega chief Yukio Sugino said in an interview with Famitsu, "The development of hardware up until now has occurred when the internal and external conditions have happened to align. The Sega Saturn has surprisingly high performance, so the difficulty of creating a mini version is also high." While Sugino's comments cast doubt on the likelihood of a Saturn Mini coming out anytime soon, he did leave the door open to its release, and even the possibility of a Dreamcast Mini, confirming tactical research is currently being done in this area. He continued, "When it comes to reissuing classic hardware, it's not really a case of saying, sales are good, so let's make another. It might be some way off, but I'd like to consider it when we are in a situation where we can develop it openly together with people who have long loved the Sega Saturn or the Dreamcast. That said, I believe our teams are doing some technical research." The Sega Genesis Mini launched in 2019, and we give it a 9 out of 10. I would love to get a Mini Saturn, because I never had the original, and I know it's home to some really great 32-bit 2D games.
Activision has confirmed that Modern Warfare 2's weapons, bundles, and operators will carry over into Call of Duty 2023. A series of leaks earlier in the year teased the possibility that Modern Warfare 2's unlocks would carry over into the next Call of Duty game. Now, Activision has seemingly confirmed it with a cheeky Twitter poll that asks fans, should they actually do it? Call of Duty 2023 developer Sledgehammer Games was among the first to retweet the post. Digital items don't usually carry over to the next Call of Duty game, but Activision recently came under fire when it revealed that its original Warzone cosmetics would not carry over into Warzone 2.0. That seems to have forced the company to have a change of heart. Now it looks as though you'll be able to take all of your favorite operators and cosmetics into the next game, which everyone thinks will be Modern Warfare 3. If it is another Modern Warfare sequel, that's a good enough reason to allow your previous Modern Warfare cosmetics to carry forward. Whatever the case, it's a nice bonus for current Call of Duty players, and it might give even new fans a good excuse to pick up Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 3 is set to continue the story set out by last year's Modern Warfare 2 campaign, and comes just a year later, breaking a release tradition of alternating between Modern Warfare, Black Ops, and other sub-brands on an annual basis. Leaked images and information for Modern Warfare 3 appear to have submerged from a closed alpha test. Snippets of unconfirmed info suggest the return of Call of Duty's classic minimap, which is sure to be a crowd pleaser. Perks are supposedly gear categories, ninja returns, remastered versions of the original Modern Warfare 2 maps Terminal and Scrapyard are also rumored to return with Modern Warfare 3. There are also reports War Mode from Call of Duty World War II is in Modern Warfare 3, and Outbreak comes back in the form of Outbreak 2.0. But, of course, that's all to be taken with a grain of salt since they're just leaks. Hopefully, we get some actual confirmation on endgame content soon for the next Call of Duty. It's time to take a quick break. When we come back, James Cameron talks about the rise of AI, and we go over what Christopher Nolan says is the official ending to Inception. See you in a bit. Welcome back. San Diego Comic-Con had a ton of entertainment news dropped, and we were there to report it all. But first, Christopher Nolan addressed the open ending to Inception recently in an interview. Let's find out some more.
It's been many years, and yet people are still bugging director Christopher Nolan about the ending of Inception. Now, as a refresher, the movie ends with Leonardo DiCaprio's character returning home with the camera fixated on his spinning totem top as it wobbles. Then the movie suddenly cuts to black. Now, what does it all mean? Well, if the top stops spinning, that means Leo's character is in the real world. And if it continues to spin, he's still dreaming. So which one is it? While speaking with Josh Horowitz on his Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, he had this to say.
No, I think it was Emma who sort of pointed out the correct answer really is that the character, Leo's character, the point of the shot is the character doesn't care at that point.
Right.
And that's really the best answer I've ever come up with. But it's not a question I comfortably answer.
It's nice to be in the pantheon of, like, that kind of, like, Quentin gets, like, the briefcase at the end of Pulp Fiction, Sophia gets, what did Bill Murray whisper? There are a handful of these.
It's definitely fun to be part of that great canon, absolutely.
So the character doesn't care if it's a dream or a reality, just happy to be there with his family. And honestly, that should be enough for viewers. But it's been a debate for over a decade now since the release of the movie, and many fans have concocted theories as to what truly is going on in that scene. Like, I think the important takeaway here is that no matter if Leo's character is still dreaming or awake, it has no significance on the emotional direction the film takes towards the end. Now, in that moment, he is happy, and that's all that really matters at that particular point. Now, I wish we had a more concrete answer as to, whether or not the top was still spinning. So I'll just leave it to you all watching. What are some of your theories on the ending of Inception? Let's discuss. In other news, it looks like WB Discovery are going to continue to play in Barbie's world given the success of the Greta Gerwig film. Now, Mattel has apparently renewed its licensing deal with the corporation, thus making it the licensee of all the toys and games of the WB Discovery's brands and franchises. Now, that's obviously a big win for the toy giant, as it'll get to continue with the Harry Potter and DC Comics brands, as well as Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, and many other brands as well. Now, Mattel has been kicking it with WB for a couple of decades now, so it's no surprise it decided to re-up on that deal. Now, this deal is for toys based on WB Discovery movies, so we'll likely see some really cool items popping up based on some of WB Discovery's upcoming projects. Now, X's and O's usually stands for hugs and kisses, but in the case of Twitter's rebranding, many users are left scratching their heads, wondering what's with this new X and what it means. Like, is it a hug, is it a kiss, or is it, I don't know, Professor Xavier, or just a complete miss? Well, likely the latter, but let's break down what Elon Musk is cooking up. Now, going to twitter.com, you'll see that little bird done flew away and has been replaced with a stylized X, which marks the end of an era. But there's more. Now, tweets are no longer being referred to as tweets, but X's. Yeah, like all your exes. According to Elon Musk, the new logo is meant to be minimalist Art Deco, which might change in appearance in the future. Now, Elon Musk seems to be obsessed with the letter X. I don't know if y'all have noticed that. There's SpaceX, X.com, and even his upcoming Everything app will bear the same lettered name. Now, his obsession with that letter is a peculiar one. Now, it's the 24th letter in the alphabet, so I don't know, maybe he's in love with the number 24. Now, was he a big fan of the television drama 24, which aired on Fox and has the letter X at the end of the network name? Maybe, I don't know, it all stemmed from that weird-ass Sesame Street episode about the letter X.
X, 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 boy, that X sure is hot. It's spinning like mad and it's marking the spot.
Now, I know I'm being weird, but in all seriousness, what the X is going on? What the X does it all mean? Well, according to Twitter CEO, X marks the spot for the future. Quote, X is the future state of unlimited interactivity, centered in audio, video, messaging, payments/banking, creating a global marketplace for ideas, goods, services, and opportunities. Powered by AI, X will connect us all in ways we're just beginning to imagine. So wait, is Twitter now going to be powered by AI? And who do you think is going to take advantage of the whole payment/banking system? Like, ever since Musk bought Twitter and started implementing these changes, online users have been very apprehensive towards using the platform. And if you think the majority will begin setting up payments and banking transactions through X, formerly known as Twitter, well, then you're freaking crazy. Now, that's not to say that some haven't already started. I mean, there are some X users who've set up payment plans for exclusive content through Twitter, now called X. I don't know, it really feels weird calling Twitter X. I'm calling it Twitter from now on. I'm gonna stick to that. It's just very, very odd just calling it X. something, we've all been used to for many decades now. You just want me to just go around and casually call it X? Yo, dude, are you on X? I just X'd something. What? It's very weird. Like HBO Max, that makes sense to call it HBO Max. It has a ring to it. I still call it HBO Max because every time I talk about it and simply call it Max, people around the office just assume I'm talking about Max Scoville, which is odd because the phrasing is usually, did you watch that new episode on Max? But I kind of get why it might confuse someone. Yeah, especially with the type of work that we do here as hosts. We're on shows. Did you watch that on Max? What? Anyway, this is a really odd move, and it makes you wonder if there's a deeper reason behind the name change. Like just last week, Elon did admit that Twitter lost nearly half of its advertising revenue since he dropped big bucks to purchase the company, and its cash flow is in the negative. So how do you turn things around, I guess? X marks the spot. Although I'm not too sure if you'll find any treasure at the end of the dotted line here, because it seems the company's map to success is paved with nothing but booby traps. But what do y'all think about all of this? Was this rebrand a good thing or a bad thing? Will it fix the company's financial problems or just add to it? Now, are you even still actively using Twitter, now X? Sound off in the comment section down below and let's discuss it. Now, from one letter to the next, the Boys spinoff Gen V got its first teaser trailer. Now, this looks a lot more promising than Twitter's X, as Gen V takes place within the Prime Video hit series of The Boys, exploring the training of the first generation of supes who know about Compound V coursing through their veins, giving them their superpowers. Now, at the school they attend, these heroes in training compete to reach the top leaderboard, with some striving to join the elite team in the Seven. Now, the trailers showcase some of the brutality fans have grown accustomed to seeing in the sister series, The Boys, so expect similar brutal bouts to play out in Gen V. And there's lots of familiar faces that pop up in the teaser trailer, so there's bound to be some crossover with The Boys. Now, if the series is a hit on Prime Video, it wouldn't be too out of the question to expect to see some of the breakout characters from Gen V to show up in The Boys at some point. Gen V will premiere on September 29th on Prime Video, with the first 3 episodes available to stream immediately, then being released on a weekly schedule. And finally, Transformers Rise of the Beasts is rolling out on Paramount Plus July 25th. If you missed the movie in theaters, you can now stream it along with Transformers Dark of the Moon, Transformers Age of Extinction, and Bumblebee, now on Paramount Plus. Now, this comes at the perfect time for Transformers fans, as the shared universe between G.I. Joe and Transformers is now a burgeoning thing fans can look forward to. Now, the Energon universe is what Hasbro is calling it, with Skybound Entertainment's Void Rivals comic series being looped into the fray. Now, Void Rivals is the newly ongoing comic series from Robert Kirkman, which will feature characters within the Energon universe. Now, without giving out too many spoilers, or any, I will not, the Rise of the Beasts movie is also part of this shared universe. So check it out on Paramount Plus.
Director James Cameron gave us a grim warning about the rise of killer AI in his 1984 sci-fi classic, The Terminator. Now he's turning back to the Terminator franchise to warn creators about the use of artificial intelligence. "I warned you guys in 1984 and you didn't listen," he told CTV News. The Terminator predicted a rapid escalation of artificial intelligence with the creation of Skynet, a self-aware computer system that rapidly evolves to take on the human race. It seems that is exactly what Cameron is still worried about, as he warns that we could end up locked in a nuclear arms race with countries competing to create the most advanced systems. "If we don't build it, the other guys are for sure going to build it," he explained, "and so then it'll escalate." His stark warning suggests that we could soon see AI brought into military combat, and that would be a terrible idea for us squishy humans. The problem, according to Cameron, is that we could see wars fought in the blink of an eye, with no way to de-escalate. Still, there's some consolation. He doesn't think AI poses a threat to screenwriters. "Let's wait 20 years, he suggested. "If an AI wins an Oscar for Best Screenplay, I think we've got to take them seriously." Let's just hope that someone, somewhere is working on a time machine. Otherwise, we might find ourselves in a grim future reality populated entirely by screenwriters. Over at Netflix, it looks as though The Witcher has figured out how to change its iconic protagonist into Liam Hemsworth. The Witcher recently recast the iconic Geralt of Rivia with Henry Cavill exiting the popular Netflix show. The role has been snapped up by Liam Hemsworth, and it looks as though the show itself won't be shying away from the rather obvious recasting. Geralt's transition from Cavill to Hemsworth is taking a very meta turn, and we'll see the show lean heavily into the concept of the multiverse. Much like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, it looks as though there are going to be different versions of Geralt running around in different universes, with Liam Hemsworth as the character's next incarnation. But that's a bit of a departure from the multiverse in the books. Executive producer Tomek Baginski told the Radio Times that, quote, "It's not just one world, it's not just one story happening in those books and those stories. It's a huge, huge world which is very, very complex. Although a version of the multiverse exists in the popular Witcher novels, it's not exactly how you might recognize it. For one thing, there aren't multiple Geralts running around, so that's at least one big departure from the original books that could keep fans on their toes. Still, you have to admire this bold decision. The Witcher isn't shying away from the recasting of its leading role. Instead, it's tackling it head on.
One more break to go, so stick around for more entertainment news. Good to see you again. One more block of news to go, so check out these entertainment headlines.
Remember that Borderlands movie everyone was talking about? Well, it's finally got a release date. That's right, Borderlands will be exploding into theaters on August 9th, 2024. It's just over a year away, and it was one of the first big releases to appear at San Diego Comic-Con. Unfortunately, that's all we're getting. There was no trailer, no first look images, no very depressing robot birthday parties, nothing.
Yay!
However, we did get our first hint of what the film will be about. Borderlands will tell the story of Lilith, a treasure hunter who returns to Pandora to find the missing daughter of Atlas. She joins up with Roland, Tiny Tina, Krieg, Tannis, and of course, their inimitable robot sidekick, Claptrap.
That was the best party I've ever thrown!
Together, they search for the missing girl while fighting off monsters and bandits and uncovering a greater power behind it all. If that sounds familiar, it should. Borderlands will feature a ton of our favorite vault hunters, and it's an all-star cast too. We're just kind of mixing up who the main party is between games and side characters. Cate Blanchett stars as Lilith alongside Edgar Ramirez as Atlas, Kevin Hart as Roland, Ariana Greenblatt as Tiny Tina, Jamie Lee Curtis as Dr. Tannis, and of course Jack Black as Claptrap. No word on other player characters like Brick and Mordecai. Sorry, Brick and Mordecai. So far, we've only seen a tiny glimpse of Borderlands with a sneak peek at Claptrap and a very brief first look at CinemaCon 2022. Still, if you're a fan of the games, it looks as though Borderlands is going to be quite the ride. Moving on, Star Wars star John Boyega has finally revealed his rankings of the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and it's not quite what you might expect. Chatting with First We Feast, he obviously put Star Wars The Force Awakens at the very top of his list. The rest of the rankings were a little different than most rankings. He said, quote, "The Force Awakens is most definitely the best. However, quote, second for me comes Star Wars 9, and then the worst, in the most respectful sense, is Episode 8. He added that, quote, "They're all lovely," though not without a sarcastic side glance away from the camera. Here, I'll do one. It's no secret that Boyega has been frustrated with the Star Wars sequels for a while and was annoyed by how his character Finn was treated. He previously told Variety that, quote, "They gave all the nuance to Adam Driver, all the nuance to Daisy Ridley." And it's not hard to agree with him there, as fans were left disappointed to see how it all turned out for his character in The Rise of Skywalker. Finn showed plenty of promise in The Force Awakens, with lots of early buzz that he might even be a Jedi before the film was released. And then he wasn't, and it turned out that scenes of him wielding a lightsaber were a cunning ruse by director J.J. Abrams. Unfortunately, Finn never quite recovered, confined to a Bacta suit at the start of Star Wars 8 and fading into the background by The Rise of Skywalker. Still, Boyega recently admitted that he would consider returning to Star Wars in the future, so here's hoping Finn finally gets the kind of big story he deserves. A new trailer for The Marvels has finally cleared up one of the biggest mysteries from the Ms. Marvel TV series. If you watched the show, you'll remember that confusing post-credit scene where Ms. Marvel and Captain Marvel suddenly switched places after the young superhero used her powers. It was an unexpected twist and left fans wondering exactly what the heck was going on. Now it looks like we have our answer. It's all down to the film's new villain. The villainous Dar-Benn, played by Zawe Ashton, has interfered with their light-based powers. Now, the two heroes, along with Tiana Paris's Monica Rambeau, will suddenly switch places whenever any of them uses their powers. It also looks as though Dar-Benn has the other of Kamala's bangles, the source of Ms. Marvel's power, and a major plot point from the TV show. Clearly, it's going to be an important artifact in the MCU going forward, and with the clandestines trying to reunite the Bangles during the TV show, it looks as though Kamala might be in for a rough time. The Marvel star Iman Vellani as the young Ms. Marvel, alongside Brie Larson returning as Captain Marvel. Tiana Paris will star as Monica Rambeau, and Samuel L. Jackson will be back as Nick Fury. Just how everything ties together remains a bit of a mystery, and we still have no idea what the villainous Dar-Benn actually wants, but we only have to wait until November 10th to find out. Moving on, party dudes, it looks as though the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will be returning to our TV sets like it's 1987 during the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem panel at San Diego Comic-Con. Co-creator Kevin Eastman confirmed that Nickelodeon has acquired every episode of the original cartoon. The Heroes in a Half Shell will debut online later this month, with Nickelodeon making all 193 episodes of the cartoon available to stream. The cartoon ran from 1987 to 1996 and became a Saturday morning staple for those who grew up in the late 80s and early 90s. Now, a new generation of Turtles fans will get to see where it all began. Based on the original comic book series, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles saw Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, and Michelangelo take on a variety of mutant villains, including Rocksteady, Bebop, and the infamous Shredder, as well as the otherworldly tyrant Krang, who hailed from Dimension X. After its digital debut across the US later this month, the show will then head to Nickelodeon branded channels, as well as debuting across the globe. It's definitely a great time to be a Turtles fan, with the return of the original cartoon and the debut of a new animated film, Mutant Mayhem. There's plenty of mutant martial arts madness to get stuck into. Don't start on the Last Ronin book, though. Work your way up to that one. That's my advice to you. And as always, cowabunga, dude.
Following in the footsteps of Netflix, Peacock is the latest streaming service that'll be raising its prices. Now, instead of offsetting its expected $3 billion loss some other way, NBC will be passing those savings over to consumers of the streaming service, raising the commercial-free Peacock Premium Plus subscription from $9.99 to $11.99. Now, the change is expected to take place August 17th. Now, this move comes at the heels of the removal of Peacock's free subscription tier for new users and the removal of the Peacock Premium and Comcast Xfinity bundle. Now, 2023 honestly has been a very strange year for streaming services, as Peacock wasn't alone in its price hikes. Both Max and Paramount Plus raised its prices this year, with Disney Plus and Hulu doing the very same just a year prior. Now, Netflix really opened up the floodgates with both its price increases and password sharing crackdown, as it can be speculated that, maybe these other streaming giants saw that Netflix actually saw an increase in subscriptions upon the implementation of its password crackdown. Now, this might make those streaming services excited to profit from the consumers, but it just makes the decision to hold on to an account all that more difficult for those who are already penny pinching to hold on to so many streaming subscriptions. Now, it's always odd that, it seems these streaming services don't take into consideration the consumers with these decisions, merely looking at the company's bottom line, which is recouping any lost funds. I think it's kind of funny, so many of the major network channels have even gotten into the streaming industry. And now that there's conflict between releases of major blockbuster movies, whether or not they be released in theaters or on the streaming platform, the companies tend to find itself somewhat suffering financial losses. Now, no one asked y'all to try to get into the streaming business in the first place. But because it was kind of a cornered market by a few streaming platforms, such as Netflix, for example, all these networks realized that if it created a similar platform, it could X out competitors like Netflix instead of brokering deals to house its movies and shows. And now that there's a financial hole that they're suffering, us consumers get hit with larger bills. It's honestly not fair, and it'll likely turn some folks off. Many might be considering canceling their subscriptions and seeking other means to watch what they want. But I really want to know what y'all think about this entire situation. Are you gonna cancel your subscription? Will the Twisted Metal live action series be enough for you to keep watching on Peacock? Probably not. But you know what? I want you all to comment down below and let's discuss. Speaking of streaming services, Ms. Marvel appears to be stretching over from Disney Plus to broadcast television. Now, Ms. Marvel will be making its debut on ABC, marking it as the first original Marvel Disney Plus series to hit broadcast television. Now, the first 3 episodes will hit ABC on August 5th, with the second half of season 1 scheduled for the following weekend. Now, this could be a move by Disney to tease its original content, test it out on a new market and different platform, with the prospect of possibly convincing folks to buy into Disney Plus for more. Now, Disney did this previously with the pilot episode of The Mandalorian, where it aired the first episode on ABC. Where that was just a small teaser of what's to come, Disney's giving all 6 episodes of Ms. Marvel away for those watching on broadcast television. Now, this could also be a strategic move by Marvel Disney to get more audiences familiar with Iman Vellani's Ms. Marvel character before she makes her theatrical debut in the Marvel's movie this November. Now, we'll see how the ratings of Ms. Marvel stack up on television later on in August.
I'm Stella Chung, and that was your Weekly Fix. We'll be back here next Saturday with more of the biggest gaming and entertainment news of the week. See you then.